All right, y'all. I'm going to roll. I'm rolling with a off the cuff topic today. Why it's so easy to write, or why I don't know how to word it. Why it's so easy to write black worlds, or the need for the black world. What's good about writing a black world? All those different things is kind of my topic today, in terms of writing and just, the freedom of it. This conversation, this particular topic, started from a conversation with my wife yesterday, who is a fan of black sci-fi. She's a fan of sci-fi and entertainment buff. She's moderated the Monster Panel, and so she's been involved in sci-fi, so she's no stranger. But this time we were talking, she mentioned to me, she said, man, it would really be nice to have a black Latino version of Downton Abbey, or I don't even know how to say it. The show, I think it's on BBC channel, about, I believe, and now I'm very broad, a royal family and their experiences living in their environment and raising their children. And if you're familiar with the show, that's fine. I don't watch it. I've never watched the episode, but I'm familiar with the story, because it's not an untold story. It may not even be original, because it may be based on some real families, okay, in Europe, in England per se. And I told her, I said, well, the biggest obstacles are, one, that world, white royalty and royalty in general, is so dominated by European culture that it's a non-factor. It's just a given that it's white. Now, put it as black, as or Latino, and a lot of other things arise, or because it's so well understood. Well, heck, it's on the deck of cards, how they get down, the king, the queen, and that's a European structure. The African kings and queens were different, so that's one. The other factor is people's always going to factor the real world into it. How do you factor the real world into it? The real world as black people is like, yo, you that rich. You having problems with your staff dating and marrying commoners. Hell, we don't use commoners. If a black person uses the term commoners, they're going to be looked at as an ultra sellout or some type of elitist, bourgeois, you name it. Not only do we not use terms that are separatist or elitist like common folks, we don't, we have we put a responsibility on any of our black celebrities, rich people, whoever, to do something in the community. You know what I'm saying? And that's very hard to stay royal and feel damn near above the law in a world that's not dominant, but in a world that you're oppressed. How about that? Make it very simple. Now, here's the black sci-fi thing. Black sci-fi in general, opens up the doors to world creation, open up the door to fantasy, and there the unreal becomes real. There the unbelievable can be believable, because you're creating the whole world. You don't have to teach a history lesson and get people into something accurate like they did in Black Panther, but the more accurate you are, the better it is for you. So it definitely works if you can merge the African cultural expression of kings and queens and royalty into a show like that. And I'm just using this show as an example, but really I want to show the value of sci-fi and the benefits of sci-fi, at least one of the benefits. Like, for instance, you can create a world where white oppression is not existent. Therefore, now you can have a commoner or an uncommitted black family or Latino family, you know, because if you even eliminate it and you go with just the Wakanda question, your question will always be, what are these people doing to help the rest of the black people who are in an oppressed world? So even if you do create a world, environment, neighborhood where a black royal family lives in a non-oppressed setting, there's still an earth that there are oppressed black people. So they would still have to do something long distance or people will disconnect from them. Now, one of the other things is this sort of comedy, but comedy is just, you know, making a joke out of things. It's not serious. So you don't necessarily, and that's been the problem with black scenarios. They're quick to run to comedy. You know, I think of Tyler Perry. I think of Eddie Murphy, and a lot of his Eddie stories, a lot of even Tyler stories. Of course, Tyler dropped Christianity in his things, but Eddie Murphy had some very powerful story concepts, but he did them in comedy, and comedy dominated because he's such a good comedian, dominated his stories. Like, take for instance, Coming to America. Didn't really do anything for black people feeling different about Africa, but it certainly could have. You know, it would have been a different story. Take the comedy out of it, it would have been the first Wakanda, but he would have had to upgrade things. They weren't wearing lions on their chest. He wasn't making the girl dance on one foot and bark. There was a lot, and elephants and giraffes weren't walking around in a castle like that. So Coming to America was some serious fantasy in that regard. But now take the comedy out and you could do a fantasy world of black people in a royal setting. The problem now becomes, when you do fantasy, when do you introduce real world problems? And you got to figure out how to balance it. Family dynamic problems are there. Now, where is this place? It's on a planet. Does the planet have any problems? Is there any diversity? You know, now you can enter white people, you can enter other ethnicities. They can come from other planets. They can come from other parts of the planet, as long as they're not oppressive. You know, that's when the commitment to your community comes into play. Think the Cosby Show. Cosby Show was a very financially sound family. They had they had strong morals, and even they were called bourgeois until they started to introduce and do storylines on Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, until the daughter came in with her strong political views and commitment. It's not just views. The daughter, she kind of left him. Lisa Bonet had the child with the military person, but you know, they weren't married. I believe he was a divorcee. He had a child, so she became a stepmother. So they had to have some real world, real non-traditional things that grounded them. But when it happens on shows like Downton Abbey, they already have a foundation. It's not people calling them elitists. They call them royals and accept them for what they are. We don't have a royal category. We have royal people. You know, if you go to Africa and Ghana, you'll see kings, queens, tribal kings. That's a king. You know, but they walk amongst the people. They are the judge. They handle family matters because they're handling their tribe. You know what I'm saying? In terms of some lofty, and I mean, even with the kings in Ghana, you just can't be some stupid person and marry the king's daughter. Of course, he's going to want a wholesome person, but there's no such thing as like commoners. There's no such arrogance to look down on non-royal people. If a king's family member marries another king's family member, is some tribal unity that's going on. You know, and it can become out of love. And I'm not even an expert on African current situations, but you know, I am not an expert, but I am educated in African culture, and I'll tell you that again, they do bring ends to wars. It's not always as contrived as, say, Indian culture, where it is an arranged marriage, like the two Bollywood stars, but they may celebrate it and they may look at it as an omen if these two people are right for each other and they do like each other and they want to get married maybe on their own. That is a beautiful thing, and you're like, oh, this is an omen. These two people are coming together. They're going to bring our tribes together. We're going to, you know, maybe end conflict or find a greater height of unity. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out to you. I don't like to go on too long, but I did mention the Cosby Show and the dynamics of that. Wakanda, the question that Wakanda may bring to it, the example of Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. Again, the way I've found, okay, one of the ways that you can get away from having to deal with black oppression, racism, is sci-fi. Take that story that you have in the real world and put it in a fantasy world. Take it to another planet, because then you're totally erasing people's expectations. And now you have to deal with, you know, they do it. White people be doing it all the time. They flip government. Star Trek used to do that all the time. You know, when they get another planet, they got to do something different than Earth. So that's how you can do it. And the people act just like Earthlings. Look at Krypton. They act just like they do on Earth. They got to show The Expanse. Every sci-fi show, Star Wars, they act just like humans on Earth. That's our ability to connect. But they do flip some elements of it, and that becomes the analogy, that becomes the similarity in stories. So I'll definitely say go for that. You think I'm all right? A royal family? Of course. I've had, not necessarily royal families, but I've had important families. And I'm also planning to write a biography, not necessarily of alternative history, a historical story on a great African king or queen, however you want to look at it, but it's one of the more iconic African leaders. Stay tuned. That should be, I hope to get to it before the end of the year, but if not, it's on my agenda for next year. All right, it's been good. Talk to you later. Thank you. Peace.